Chief Chokudi Eze's mansion in Ikoyi was the kind of house people whispered about. The kind you slowed down to admire while driving past. Everything about the mansion was flawless. Yet for years, it had felt empty, until Annabelle arrived. She came quietly. No dramatic introduction, no noise, just a slim young woman with calm eyes, a soft voice, and a work ethic that spoke louder than any resume. Within weeks, the mansion began to change, subtly, gently, almost invisibly. Annabelle didn't rearrange furniture or redecorate. She didn't touch the expensive artworks or question the designer layouts. She simply cared. Every morning, she cleaned Chief Chokuri's bedroom until it looked untouched, like no one had slept there at all. The king-size bed was perfectly made, the sheets stretched smooth without a single wrinkle. Pillows sat upright, aligned like disciplined soldiers. His suits were arranged by color, dark to light, pressed to perfection. His shoes gleamed like they had just arrived from the store. But it wasn't just neatness, it was intention. In the kitchen, Annabelle cooked meals that transformed the air. Pepper soup simmered gently, filling the mansion with warm spice. Jollof rice carried a smoky richness that wrapped itself around the walls. Grilled fish sizzled softly, seasoned with care, not haste. The house began to smell alive. Chief Chokuri noticed it without meaning to. Some evenings, he would step in from work, loosen his tie, inhale deeply, and pause. Something always made him stop. Peace. He would stand there for a moment, briefcase still in hand, wondering why his chest felt lighter, why the usual tension in his shoulders melted faster than normal. "This house feels like home now," he once muttered to himself, surprised by his own words. What fascinated him most, however, was his study. The study was his sacred space, his fortress, a room no one lingered in longer than necessary. Business books lined the shelves, accounting texts, strategy manuals, international finance journals. Everything was always in order. But after Annabelle took over cleaning duties, the room didn't just look clean, it sparkled. The mahogany desk gleamed, the leather chairs smelled faintly of polish. The shelves were dust-free, perfectly aligned. Sometimes, when the house was quiet and her work was done, Annabelle sat there, not to rest, to read. She read his books slowly, carefully, accounting principles, financial analysis, things no one ever expected a maid to understand. No one noticed, not the other staff, not the security guards, not even Chief Chokudi. Until the day everything changed. That afternoon, numbers mocked him. His study was unusually untidy. Files stacked carelessly on the mahogany desk, paper spread across the surface like a battlefield. His suit jacket lay abandoned on the leather couch. His tie was off, sleeves rolled to his elbows, veins standing out slightly on his forearms as he rubbed his temples. The figures refused to balance. He had reviewed them 3 times already. The finance department had reviewed them. External auditors had been called in. Still, nothing. Something was wrong, and he could feel it in his bones. "This is nonsense," he muttered, flipping through the documents again. Absolute nonsense. A soft knock came at the door. He didn't look up. "Good afternoon, sir." Silence. "Good afternoon, sir," the voice repeated. Gentle, cautious. Annoyance snapped through him. He lifted his head sharply. "Why are you disturbing me?" he barked. "Can't you see I'm working?" Annabelle froze by the doorway. I'm sorry, sir," she said quickly. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just here to clean." He exhaled harshly, dragging a hand through his hair. "These figures are giving me a headache. Nothing is matching. Nothing." Annabelle hesitated. She had seen that look before. Men overwhelmed, egos bruised, pride on the edge of collapse. She had learned long ago when to stay quiet. But this time, something pushed her forward. "Sir," she said carefully, "is there anything I can help with?" Chokudi let out a bitter laugh. "Help?" He leaned back in his chair, incredulous. "Help with what exactly?" She swallowed. "The accounts. That did it." He laughed properly this time, short, sharp, mocking. "You?" he scoffed. Annabelle, you're a maid. This is accounting, not cooking or cleaning. The words stung, but she kept her face calm. I understand, sir, she replied softly, but don't be surprised if I fix the problem. That got his attention. He stared at her, brows knitting together. For a second the room went quiet, just the low hum of the air conditioner filling the space. Then he chuckled, shaking his head. If you solve this accounting mess, he said casually, almost cruelly, I'll marry you. My professional accountants couldn't fix it. For Christ's sake, even the auditors are confused. Annabelle blinked. May I have a look, sir? There was no arrogance in her tone, no pride, just confidence. Curiosity flickered across his face, brief, reluctant. With a shrug, he pushed the files toward her. By all means, entertain yourself. She stepped forward. Annabelle scanned the documents quietly, her eyes moving fast. Her lips pressed together slightly as she read. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. 1 minute passed. Chukudi watched her absently, the tension in the room thick as she continued to read, already preparing to dismiss the whole thing. Then she spoke. This figure, she said calmly, pointing, doesn't correspond with this entry. He frowned. That's why everything collapses from here downward, she continued. There's also a data gap at the beginning. Someone erased a record. She flipped another page. This isn't a mistake, sir. It's manipulation, possibly money laundering. Silence. The air shifted. Chakudi grabbed the documents from her hands, scanning the section she indicated. His eyes widened as understanding hit him. Hard. Oh my God. He sank back into his chair slowly. She was right. Every single thing she said. Right. For the first time since the problem began, the puzzle made sense. Annabelle smiled faintly. Sir, she said lightly, you owe me a wedding ring. For a second, he just stared at her. Then he burst out laughing, deep, genuine laughter that filled the study and spilled into the hallway. Annabelle bowed slightly and turned to leave. But Chief Chukwudi didn't laugh because it was funny. He laughed because, in that moment, his entire world tilted. And he realized something dangerous. The maid he had underestimated had just outsmarted everyone in his empire. And he couldn't stop thinking about her. The joke refused to die. It started the very next morning. Annabelle was arranging flowers in the living room, fresh white lilies placed neatly in a tall glass vase, when Chief Chukudi walked past, already dressed for work. He paused, glanced at her, and smiled. Good morning, Annabelle, my wife. The flowers nearly slipped from her hands. Sir, she gasped, turning sharply. Please don't start this thing again. He chuckled, adjusting his cufflinks. Why not? A promise is a promise. She frowned. You were joking. You were frustrated. That doesn't mean marriage. Well, he said calmly, you fixed what 5 accountants couldn't. That already qualifies you for many things. She shook her head, cheeks warming. Sir, I'm just a maid. That word bothered him more than he expected. From that day on, the teasing became routine. When she brought his coffee into the study, my wife, you forgot sugar. When she reminded him of a meeting, my wife, you're becoming my personal assistant. When she corrected an error in a report, my wife, don't embarrass me too much. Annabelle tried to ignore it. Truly, she did. But the way he said it wasn't mocking. It wasn't flirtatious either. It was fond. And that confused her. She noticed changes too. Chief Chukudi started calling her into the study more often. Not to clean, but to sit, to listen, to suggest. What do you think? He would ask casually, as if her opinion was the most natural thing in the world. At first, she hesitated. Sir, are you sure? I don't want trouble. He waved it off. If anyone has a problem, they can see me. So she spoke. And each time she did, his respect for her deepened. She explained ideas clearly, confidently. She questioned assumptions. She challenged him without fear or arrogance. He watched her closely, how her brows knitted when she concentrated, how her lips moved slightly as she calculated figures in her head. For the first time in years, work excited him again. So did she. The staff noticed. They noticed how she was always nearby, how she sat quietly in meetings with senior managers, saying nothing unless asked, how Chief Chukudi listened when she spoke, Whispers grew. Is she sleeping with him? Is she his spy? How can a maid be entering the study? Annabel heard it all. She said nothing. But at night, alone in her small room, she stared at the ceiling and wondered when her life had become so complicated. Then there was Vanessa. Vanessa arrived one evening unannounced, heels clicking sharply against marble floors, designer handbag swinging on her arm like a weapon. She found Annabel in the hallway and stopped. "You," she said, eyes cold. "You're the maid, right?" "Yes, ma'am," Annabel replied respectfully. Vanessa looked her up and down slowly, too slowly. "Try to remember your place." That night, Vanessa confronted Chukudi. "Why is that maid always around you?" she snapped, adjusting her hair in the mirror. "She's in your study, your kitchen, everywhere." "She's efficient," Chukudi replied calmly. "That's all?" "Yes." Vanessa didn't believe him, neither did Annabel. Yet every time he said, "Annabel, my wife," something stirred between them, something dangerous, something neither of them was ready to name. And without realizing it, Chief Chukudi Eze was falling in love. The mansion had never felt so quiet. Night settled gently over Ikoyi, wrapping the house in a calm that felt deceptive, too peaceful for the storm brewing inside it. Soft lights glowed along the hallway walls. The marble floors reflected shadows as staff retired to their quarters, one after another. Annabel moved quietly, as always. She pushed her cleaning trolley toward the master bedroom, her heart heavy, her thoughts louder than her footsteps. The events of the day replayed in her mind. The whispers, the humiliation, Vanessa's cold eyes, the way Chief Chukudi had defended her without a word. It confused her. It scared her. She reached the bedroom door, knocked lightly, and waited. "Come in," his voice came from inside. The room smelled faintly of expensive cologne and fresh linen. The curtains were half drawn, allowing the city lights to spill in. Annabel went straight to work, avoiding the bed, focusing on straightening the pillows, smoothing the duvet. She didn't know he was in the bathroom. The door opened behind her. Steam filled the room. She turned and froze. Chief Chukudi stood there with a towel wrapped loosely around his waist, water droplets still clinging to his skin. His hair was damp, his face relaxed, unguarded, nothing like the powerful man the world knew. Their eyes locked. For a moment, neither of them breathed. I'm sorry, sir," Annabel gasped, turning quickly. "I didn't know you were—" "Annabel." His voice stopped her. She hesitated, her back still facing him. "Why are you running?" he asked softly. "My wife." She let out a nervous laugh, trying to hide her racing heart. "Please stop calling me that. Your girlfriend will hear you one day and—" "She already has," he interrupted calmly. Annabel turned slowly. His eyes were serious now. "She doesn't own me," he said. "And you're not doing anything wrong." "That's not true," Annabel whispered. "I work for you. People are already talking. I don't want trouble." He stepped closer, not threatening, not rushed, just close enough for her to feel his warmth. "Look at me," he said gently. She did, and in that moment the walls she had built cracked. He reached out, hesitated for a second, giving her time to pull away, then cupped her face gently in his hands. The touch sent a shock through her body. "Annabel," he murmured, "do you know how hard it is pretending I don't feel this?" Her breath hitched. Before she could answer, his lips met hers. The kiss was soft, careful, like a question. Her body reacted before her mind could. For a heartbeat, she kissed him back, slow, trembling, real. Then fear rushed in. She pulled away abruptly. "No," she whispered, stepping back. "This is wrong." Without waiting for his response, she turned and ran from the room. Her heart pounded violently as she reached her quarters. She locked the door, leaned against it, and slid to the floor. What have I done? Is he serious, or am I just another distraction? Meanwhile, Chief Chukudi stood alone in his bedroom, staring at the door she had fled through. His chest felt tight. He hadn't planned the kiss, but he didn't regret it. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking like a billionaire. He was thinking like a man who had just realized he was in love. The next 2 days were unbearable. Annabel avoided him completely. She took different routes for the mansion, sent other staff when he called for her, kept her eyes down whenever they accidentally crossed paths. Chief Chukwudi noticed, and it hurt more than he expected. By the third night, he'd had enough. This time he wasn't going to let fear win. The silence between them had lasted 2 days, but it felt longer. In those 2 days, Annabelle became a shadow in Chief Chukwudi's house. Efficient, invisible, unreachable. She cleaned his study when he wasn't around, served his meals through the kitchen staff, and kept her eyes permanently lowered. Every step she took was measured, guarded, as though one wrong glance might shatter the fragile wall she had built around her heart. And Chukwudi noticed everything. He noticed how she no longer lingered, how she stopped sitting near him while he worked, how the house, though still spotless and warm with her cooking, felt strangely empty. On the third evening, he made a decision. He found her in the kitchen stirring a pot of pepper soup. The rich aroma filled the air, thick with uziza and spice. She stiffened the moment she sensed his presence behind her. "Annabelle," he said quietly. She didn't turn. "Sir?" "I don't want sir tonight." Her hand paused mid-stir. "Then, what do you want me to call you?" "My name," he replied gently. "Just Chukwudi." Silence stretched between them, heavy, but no longer hostile. "Annabelle," he continued, "I owe you an apology." That made her turn. For the first time in days, their eyes met. His were calm, sincere. No authority, no arrogance, just a man standing bare before his feelings. "I crossed a line," he said. "And I hate that I made you feel unsafe in my house." Her throat tightened. "You didn't force me," she admitted softly, "but you confused me." He nodded. "Then let me be clear." That night, instead of returning to his study or bedroom, Chukwudi took his car keys. "Come with me." "Where?" "Somewhere honest." They sat at a roadside suya spot in Lekki, the kind where plastic chairs creaked under weight and the meat sizzled loudly over open flames. Smoke curled into the night air. Laughter from nearby tables mixed with the hum of traffic. Annabelle relaxed without realizing it. She laughed when pepper stung her tongue. He teased her for drinking too much water. She teased him for a billionaire who couldn't handle spice. For the first time, there was no employer, no maid, just Chukwudi and Annabelle. "Why are you so good with numbers?" he asked, wiping his hands. She shrugged. "School didn't finish me. Life did. I learned fast because I had to." He watched her with something deeper than attraction, respect. After suya, he drove her to boutiques she'd only ever admired from outside. Dresses brushed her skin like dreams she'd never dared to touch. Shoes sparkled under bright lights. She protested, but he only smiled. "You deserve good things," he said simply. She believed him. The confession. Back at the mansion, the night felt different, less heavy, more honest. As she turned to leave for the staff quarters, he reached for her wrist, gently this time. "Not like before," he said quickly. "I promise." She stayed. "Annabelle," he said, voice low but steady. "I am not confused about what I feel." She folded her arms, trying to protect herself. "What about Vanessa?" He didn't hesitate. "She's a habit. You're a choice." Her breath caught. "If there's any woman I can spend my life with," he continued, "it's you." Silence fell again, but this time it was soft. He cupped her face, waiting. When she didn't pull away, he kissed her. This kiss was different, slow, deliberate, full of truth. And this time Annabelle kissed him back without fear. That night, they didn't rush. They talked. They laughed. They admitted fears. And when they finally lay together, it wasn't hunger that led them. It was surrender. Morning light crept through the curtains, catching bare skin and tangled sheets. Annabelle woke first. For a brief second, panic rose. Then she felt his arm around her waist, and everything changed. Chukwudi watched her quietly as she dressed, shy but glowing. "My wife," he teased softly. She shook her head, smiling despite herself. "You're impossible." "But you didn't deny it." She didn't. Outside that room, the world waited. Vanessa, the staff, the consequences. But inside that moment, there was only love, new, dangerous, and irreversible. Few weeks later, Annabelle knew something was wrong before the test confirmed it. It started with the nausea. At first, she blamed the pepper soup, then the suya, then stress. But when the dizziness came every morning, sharp, unforgiving, fear crept quietly into her heart. She bought the pregnancy test in secret. Standing alone in the tiny bathroom of the staff quarters, Annabelle stared at the result, her hands trembling. Positive. Her knees buckled, and she sat on the cold floor, staring at the stick as if it might suddenly change its mind. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. Her first thought wasn't joy. It was Chukuri. For hours, she avoided him again. Longer this time, heavier. She cleaned the house mechanically, her mind racing. What if he thinks I trapped him? What if Vanessa finds out? What if I lose my job, my dignity, myself? Chukuri noticed immediately. Annabelle no longer laughed. She barely ate. She pressed a hand unconsciously to her stomach, as if guarding a secret. That evening, he stopped her in the corridor. "Annabelle," he said firmly, but gently, "talk to me." Her eyes filled with tears. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. They sat in his study, the same room where everything had begun. Her fingers twisted together as she spoke. "I'm pregnant." For a heartbeat, Chukuri said nothing. Then he stood. Annabelle's heart dropped. But instead of anger, he smiled, a slow, stunned, disbelieving smile. "My wife," he breathed. "You've just given me the greatest gift of my life." She broke down crying. He crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear. "We'll face this together," he promised. "No hiding, no shame." She believed him. Vanessa found out a week later. She didn't hear it from Chukuri. She heard it from the staff. Whispers moved faster than truth. "That maid is always tired. Madame Vanessa, she doesn't clean the master bedroom anymore. Have you noticed how Olga looks at her?" Vanessa's smile cracked. She drove to the mansion unannounced, heels sharp against marble floors, designer bag swinging like a weapon. She found Annabelle in the kitchen. "So," Vanessa said sweetly, eyes cold, "how long have you been warming another woman's bed?" Annabelle froze. Before she could respond, Vanessa stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You think pregnancy will secure your future?" she hissed. "Girls like you always try." Chukuri entered at that moment. "That's enough," he said sharply. Vanessa turned on him. "You got your maid pregnant?" "I got the woman I love pregnant," he corrected calmly. Vanessa laughed, a sound too sharp to be sane. "This isn't over," she warned Annabelle. "Not even close." Pressure from all sides. The house changed overnight. The staff watched Annabelle with new eyes, some curious, some jealous, some fearful. Some congratulated her quietly, others avoided her completely. And then came the calls from Chukuri's mother. "Who is this girl? A maid? Pregnant already?" Chukuri didn't back down. "She's my wife," he repeated. But Annabelle felt the weight of it all, pressing down on her chest. One night, she broke. "What if your family never accepts me?" she cried. "What if this child ruins your life?" Chukuri knelt before her, pressing his forehead to her belly. "This child is my life," he said softly, "and so are you." A new fear. Just when Annabelle thought things couldn't get worse, she overheard something she wasn't meant to. Vanessa, talking on the phone. Her voice was low, furious. "She thinks she's won. I won't let her." Annabelle's hand shook as she backed away. For the first time since the pregnancy, real fear settled in her bones. This wasn't just jealousy anymore. It was war. Cliffhanger. That night, Annabelle lay awake beside Chukuri, listening to this steady breathing. She placed a hand over her stomach. "My baby," she whispered. Outside, the mansion lights glowed peacefully. Inside, danger was quietly taking shape. And Annabelle knew one thing for certain. Love had changed her life. The storm did not come quietly. It arrived with phone calls, unannounced visits, sharp looks, and questions that cut deeper than knives. By morning, The news had spread beyond the mansion. Chief Chukwudi Eze, the billionaire, was in love with his maid, and she was pregnant. His parents arrived from the east without warning. Chief Mrs. Eze stepped into the mansion dressed in full traditional attire, coral beads resting heavily on her neck, wrapper tied with authority. Her eyes swept the house like an inspector's, cold, assessing. Behind her was Chief Eze, quiet but stern, walking with the weight of generations on his shoulders. Annabelle stood at the bottom of the staircase, hands clasped, heart pounding. "So," his mother said slowly, eyes finally landing on her, "this is the girl." Annabelle bowed respectfully. "Good afternoon, Ma." No response. Chukwudi moved to Annabelle's side. "She is my wife," he said calmly, "and she's carrying my child." The room went silent. His mother laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. A maid carrying an Eze bloodline? Annabelle's chest tightened, but she did not cry. Not today. "I may have worked as a maid," Annabelle said softly, lifting her head, "but I am educated, capable, and I love your son." Chief Mrs. Eze's eyes narrowed. Love does not build empires. Annabelle met her gaze, but it sustains them. Chukwudi looked at her then, not as a lover, not as a protector, but as a man seeing his equal, and he smiled. Vanessa's last card. Vanessa chose that moment to strike. She arrived like poison wrapped in silk. Black dress, red lips, confidence sharpened into cruelty. "I see introductions are happening," she said sweetly. "Perhaps I should tell them how their son's wife trapped him with pregnancy." The room exploded. "Enough!" Chukwudi roared. Vanessa laughed. "You think she loves you? She wanted your money, your name." Annabelle's hands trembled, but she stepped forward. "I had access to his money long before I ever touched his heart," she said steadily. "If I wanted wealth, I would have stolen quietly. I stayed because I loved loudly." Vanessa's smile cracked. And then the truth spilled. Accusations, manipulation, attempts to bribe staff, threats whispered in corners. Chukwudi listened, and when he was done, he turned to Vanessa with finality. "Leave and never come back." Security escorted her out screaming. It was over. Acceptance comes slowly. That night, Chief Mrs. Eze watched Annabelle help an elderly staff member walk carefully up the stairs. No cameras, no performance, just kindness. Later, she called Annabelle into the sitting room. "You are strong," she said quietly, "but strength alone does not make a wife." Annabelle nodded. "I know, Ma." The older woman studied her for a long moment. "Take care of my son," she said finally, "and this child." Tears filled Annabelle's eyes. It wasn't approval, but it was permission. Weeks later, the mansion changed. The staff now greeted her with respect. Her name was spoken differently, Madam. Chukwudi introduced her formally at a business dinner, hand on her waist, pride in his eyes. "This is my wife." She smiled, not because of the title, but because she had earned it. That night, Annabelle stood on the balcony, hand resting on her growing belly, Lagos lights blinking endlessly below. Chukwudi joined her, wrapping his arms around her. "You were never just a maid," he whispered. "And you were never just a billionaire." Together they watched the city breathe. The house that once made her invisible now bore her name. And for the first time, Annabelle knew she wasn't just surviving anymore. She had arrived. Your starting point does not define your final name. Silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it's strength gathering itself. Know your value even when the world insists on your position. Real love doesn't save you. It stands beside you while you save yourself. The same hands that cleaned the house built her future. Like and subscribe for more of the story.